What makes Venezuela unique from an architectural perspective? Venezuela is unique according to many points of view. We are going to take it from an architectural point of view, taking into account the following aspects: color, light, texture, acoustics, rhythm, vertical and horizontal circulation, and last but not least, space and scale. We're going to start with color. We cannot talk about color in architectural works in Venezuela and not mention a great master of color and kinetics, as was Carlos Cruz Diaz. We can broadly define kinetic art as a way to create, which is based on the movement of the elements that make up the workspace arranged in the graphic representation. In this case in particular, we're going to talk about color on the Simón Bolívar International Airport, where there is a very important work of the artist mentioned above, Cruz Diaz, called Chromatic Ambience, created on 1974. This work is a way to use color in architecture, complements the space, and creates a pleasant atmosphere for people who travel or are simply waiting there.
Light. Light is a fundamental element in the design of any work, especially architectural. In this, we took as an example the Plaza Cubierta from the Central University of Venezuela by Carlos Raúl Villanueva. It was a place where was taught very carefully the behavior of light, essentially natural light, to create very rich and varied environments. It sent out the accent light that highlight the sculptures and mosaics found there.
Texture. Texture is a quality that can make our perception of an object varies. There are two types of texture, visual texture and tactile texture. Our first example is from visual texture and refers to the facade of the Central Library of Central University of Venezuela. This facade is made of small red and blue tiles that give a perception of uniformity and unity. As an extra, we take the Penetrables by Jesus Soto as an example of tactile texture, because these works are based on the texture and the feelings generated in the person. Because once the artist is done, he loses control over the product of his work. The public begins to elaborate their experience and reference, sometimes completely changing the meaning.
Acoustics. Room acoustics are about the way in which sound behaves in a room. Sound transmission, sound absorption, sound reflection, and sound diffusion are all aspects that are important here. Taken as an example, one of the most extraordinary places acoustically and aesthetically speaking, the Aula Magna. Some of the events held there have been of great importance for the country and have been historical reference to the national events. This campus was ranked in the 80s as one of the 5 rooms with the best acoustics in the world, which is still owned by a system that combines technology and art, the Flying Saucers or Cloud Acoustic by Alexander Calder. These structures were installed in the ceiling under the supervision of the US firm Bolt, Beranek and Newman, while a band played on stage to calibrate the sound exactly.
Rhythm. In front of Plaza La Castellana, Corbanca Tower welcomes visitors offering sober architectural environment, gardens and pieces of art. With its rooms and facilities, it is one of the most important cultural and social venues in the city. We take this tower as an example because of its structure. The facades of this important building are formed by structural rhythm of screens. This type of rhythm is due to the repetition of elements. Another good example of repetition, these times of dimensions and elements, is the tower of the newspaper El Universal. It uses the same elements like windows and keeps the same dimension all over the building.
Vertical and horizontal circulation. Circulation refers to the way people move through and interact with a building. In public buildings, circulation is of high importance. For example, in buildings such as museums, it is key to have a floor plan that allows continuous movement while minimizing the necessity to retrace one's steps, allowing a visitor to see each work in a sequential natural flow. Structures such as elevators, escalators, and staircases are often referred as circulation elements, as they are positioned and designed to optimize the flow of people through a building. An example of vertical circulation is the Bellas Artes Museum in Caracas. It stands out that the architect was always looking for the verticality of the building by several factors, such as a skylight that runs from the roof to the ground without any interruption, as well as the main circulation system, which is a ramp that is ideal for travel in a less abrupt way. At this point, we return to take the Simón Bolívar International Airport, this time as an example of horizontal circulation. This is due to their condition of longitudinality, complemented by the work of Carlos Cruz Diez. His work makes an axis denoting the form of travel that occurs in that space.
Space and scale. At this point, we take as an example of space and scale a conflict that exists in the city. It's the scale of the cozy village of El Hatillo in opposition to the recent Paseo El Hatillo Mall, which was located right next to it, creating a very abrupt change of scale for anyone who travels through the area. As we can see, El Hatillo is a colonial town with buildings of certain characteristics, all relatively the same size, which do not exceed a certain height, narrow streets and sidewalks, all surrounding a small plaza that characterized this area. Next to all this was recently located Paseo El Hatillo Mall, which makes no transition between the changes of scale, making the space varies exaggerate at any moment. It's an unfortunate example of an oversight, where there wasn't correctly analyzed the surroundings for the location of a building of this scale, which adversely affects the villagers.
As we noted in the development of this project, Venezuela has countless virtues, ranging from natural wonders to amazing works of architecture. This study is an opportunity to learn all these elements that are not noticeable at the first sight, but which are essential for achieving a wonderful and memorable architectural work. It's also an opportunity to realize all the good things about our country, and remember that Venezuela is definitely a unique country.